Hello and welcome to this episode of all new, brand new Tripology. I'm Alun and I'm here with my best friend and one of the greatest backpackers of all time. It's the ever-caffeinated Adam.
On this week's show, we've got some hypothetical tripological reasonings for you. These are sort of backpacking scenarios where we're going to make you think on your feet, see what you would do. And also at the end of the show, we've got a brand new item called Tales of a Trip, which is where you guys, the listeners, send in your great travel stories.
We're going to hear travel stories sent in by listeners from all over the globe, only 3 minutes long. We're going to unpack them, digest them. It's going to be a hell of a good time. We're here in Manila, aren't we, Adam?
Yeah, here in Manila. It's becoming sort of a second home for me. I like it a lot. We're living in an Airbnb at the moment, which immediately changes the experience. And I feel very comfortable here.
It's been nice having you here, sort of to move around Manila with. Before you arrived, I was holed up like a little rat bag, all with the flu. And now you've arrived, I'm sort of journeying around Manila with much more frequency. I've got a couple of observations and things I've noticed while I'm there.
Okay, yeah, go on.
One of the main ones is, without trying to sound like a much shitter, more preachy travel podcast,
Right.
you really should eat street food and do the less restaurant-y things here, because my goodness, if the quality and price aren't inversely correlated.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's not anything you like to hear, of course, when you go to somewhere in Southeast Asia. The more you pay, the worse you get. But I think on a couple of occasions we've probably felt that. And I would say like coffee shops is almost certainly in the conversation.
Yeah, every time we've splashed out like, I just fancy a real nice black lungo, long black Americano coffee. Or even if we've gone, hey, let's try this like Filipino restaurant, try and get the best sisig in Makati City.
Yeah.
We've almost always been disappointed versus the times where we found a vendor sort of just serving up fried pork on the side of the road.
I think it comes down to expectations. I really do. I mean, you jump online nowadays and, you know, the easiest thing to type in any new city is best coffee in X or best food in X. So the ones that make it onto the internet often are the ones that can pay for marketing. And the old man by the side of the road who's been frying up pork for the last 40 years, he hasn't got a marketing budget.
No, he rarely ever he spends money on marketing, doesn't he? Because you actually need a pin on Google Maps in order to get reviews. And if you've not even gone through the rudimentary exercise of being like, oh, it's me, it's Grandpa Joe's pork sisig side of the road joint.
Yeah.
If you've not typed that in on Google, you ain't ever going to get the reviews. Who knows about you? Only the locals.
Yeah, I would say out of the, what do we have, like two, three coffees a day at a push? Definitely two.
Yeah.
And we do like to go to nice coffee shops where we sit and do a bit of planning and a bit of chin wagging and that kind of stuff. People watching as you would do.
Plotting sort of podcast domination. We're thinking we're going to be the biggest travel podcast in the world. How do we get there?
Yeah, so, you know, I've been here 8 or 9 days now. So that's equal to 16 coffees at a minimum.
Yeah.
I would say only one, maybe two of those coffees were any good and they were both in the same place.
Yeah, and today we had the most expensive coffee and by my money, one of the worst we've had.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we went to a place called the Coffee Project just to out it on the pod. And the thing I hate, and I know that this is going to be unpopular, this is somewhat of a hot take.
Yeah, I like it.
But I think that there are a lot of places nowadays that are becoming completely almost like generic in their appearance, in their aesthetic. They're obviously catering to either a middle class Asian developing country sort of demographic or white people on holiday. Or expats. I think we saw that in India. We've seen it all over Southeast Asia. And these are the coffee shops that, even though they're in Southeast Asia, they're still doing croissant. They're still doing, you know, different.
I saw a ham and cheese croissant today, looking all out of place on a Manila storefront. I think it speaks to this like inverse backpacker price paradigm paradox.
Yeah.
Because in trying to appeal to this ever-growing Western tourist audience, the prices get higher because these things just don't exist in these countries.
Totally.
And backpackers are willing to pay them. And travels and tourists are willing to pay them. I mean, tourists just get put under this one banner, whether you're staying in a hotel or a hostel, whatever. You're just a tourist in a city. And then because it's not from there, the quality of the product is like less. And you end up paying more for things what aren't as good.
Yeah. Do you know what? The counter argument to this is Taiwan, where they do have some fantastic Western cafes. The coffee's exceptional. Some of the baked goods are exceptional as well. But I mean, what we've had so far has been lacking. And the eye-watering sum of 215 pesos for a coffee that I didn't want to drink, it's difficult to stomach. And I don't know whether we live in this world now where, you know, through globalisation and multiculturalism and digital nomadism, whether the coffee should actually be any less expensive. You know, we're up in arms saying, oh, but we're in the Philippines, it should be cheap. Everything should be cheap. Yeah. Should it? I don't know if it should anymore.
Well, I like travelling with you because I think when I go about my day, I end up having like blinders on, like a horse about to bolt. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm going back to my Airbnb. And I act out the going back to the Airbnb as if that's all I can do.
Yeah.
But you sort of act like a little travel octopus with tendrils going off in all different directions. So when we were going back to Airbnb, you just saw someone, he was tucked away, frying up what looked to be a sort of slurry on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And one of your octopus tendrils pulled you in that direction. And before I knew it, I was just sat on the side of the road with you and another backpacker, and we were eating this thing. I would have just walked straight past that because I was in transit mode.
Sure, yeah.
I like your ability to keep in different modes simultaneously. You were also, little did me and the other backpacker know, in searching for food mode. And I respect that. I think that's something I'm going to learn from as I continue to travel, is try and keep different modes switched on.
Yeah, I wonder if if we can use the analogy of a dog owner walking its dog and I'm just sniffing around the bushes the whole time.
Yeah.
And you walk off and the other backpacker goes, Adam's back there, is he? Yeah, he'll be all right. He'll catch up with us in a minute. And then when I don't, you go, oh, he's actually found something interesting.
Yeah.
He's picked up a scent. It might be some street food.
There's an old philosophical problem where people go like, what's more free?
Yeah.
The dog that's on a leash and therefore it gets to live out a long life being on a leash, being by its owner.
Yeah.
Or the dog that gets off its leash, it gets to have true freedom, but as a result, it gets scolded and ends up having its ability to just go and roam around taken away from it.
Yeah.
And the backpacking equivalent with that, if you don't mind me getting philosophical, the backpacking equivalent is like, are you on rails seeing the best possible things all the time?
Yeah.
And you know you're going to have a very enlivening, light experience where you get to see all the greatest things a city has to offer because you're told, go see this, go and get the best this, get this restaurant, go and do this. Or do you want to be the kind of dog that's just like, I am going to experience as much as possible, do whatever I want, sniff around at every different thing, but maybe you'll get food poisoning and that's okay.
Yeah, always risk the bad meal, as Mr. Anthony Bourdain said. How do you think that meal went? I mean, the other backpacker that we were with said it was the best thing he'd eaten in the Philippines so far, and it cost 60 pesos.
Yeah, he did also say that one of his favourite things to do was eat fried chicken, and he wasn't much of a foodie. But I'll still take his opinion at face value. I love that you gave him that experience, and he loved that. I thought it was very beautiful, very nice food. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And no sign of food poisoning yet.
No, not just yet. I mean, it's been 24 hours, so we're still crossing our fingers. But that's the reason I love travel. It's because you can sort of cherry pick and choose. I'll be honest, maybe it's one of my failures. It's definitely where the vast majority of my budget goes. But how many of these Western-style cafes do I need to go into before I realise that invariably they're shit?
Yeah, stay local. Don't go to these expensive cafes. Just eat what the locals eat, drink what the locals eat, and you'll be drinking and eating all day long. Adam, backpackers find themselves in a plethora of difficult situations. It's a complicated thing to do, travelling the world. And by way of combating that, I kind of like to put you and you like to put me through a sort of backpacking simulation experience where we propose hypothetical backpacking scenarios and try and work out the solutions together. It's an item that we like to call Tripological Reasoning. Tripological Reasoning.
Tripological Reasoning. Driving me insane.
Oh, what would you do? Adam, I've been backpacking for nigh on a decade now, and sometimes I get myself into some situations and I think, oh, what would Adam do? And this is one such situation that I'd like to bring to the table. I just want to know what you would do.
All right, I'm all ears. Go and fire away.
I found myself very early on in my backpacking career, I found myself in Vietnam in Hanoi City.
Okay.
And I'd arranged a workaway. You know we love workaways on this show.
Love workaways on this show.
For those who don't know, you're working away. You sign up, you find something. In this situation, it was a teaching job. I was going to be teaching English out of an apartment.
Walk in the park.
I was on my way from China.
Yeah.
And I messaged the host saying, oh, I'm coming. Like, this is the day I'm going to arrive. And then I just forgot about it.
Okay.
By the time I arrived in Hanoi, I realised that one of my messages hadn't sent. Okay. Her last message was, what time are you going to arrive? Mm-hmm. I'm going home now. Are you going to get here? All of that jazz. Here's the address in case you need it.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens.
Right.
I arrived in Hanoi. I take a cab to the address.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be starting my workaway experience tomorrow.
Yeah.
I get to the apartment building. It's completely shut down, locked up. No one's there. I have no cell phone service, no way of contacting the host, no way of... I've tried to, like, back when I was at the airport on airport Wi-Fi, I sent her a message saying, look, I'm going to be there soon. Please let me in, all that stuff. No responses, no way of contacting. What do you do?
I mean, it's a tough one. I've been in similar situations beforehand. I'm assuming that we're going back in time to when their Wi-Fi wasn't everywhere.
Wasn't ubiquitously available. No, we're talking, this is in 2015.
Yeah, okay. So we've got a contact number and we've sent messages, but no response.
No responses. And I should mention as well, it's dark. We're talking, it's 11 p.m. at night by the time I get there.
Oh, that's a shame.
That was quite important.
Okay, so no accommodation. I mean, I probably...
My accommodation was the workaway, right?
Yeah. So you're living on site. What would I have done? I mean, I would have hung around at the address, I think. Probably given it a couple of hours into the early hours. I would imagine that the reason she's not replying is because it's late at night. Not even back in those days, not too late to walk into a hostel and book somewhere else to stay. You banging on the door?
I mean, how are you? The door, by the way, was like, I knew the apartment was on one of the upper floors.
Right.
And the bottom floor apartment was just like locked down. There was no way of getting in. It was just completely locked. No lights on inside, no security guard, nothing.
All right. Okay. And you having a look for a gutter?
Well, to speak to your hostel point, how would I even know where a hostel was?
Right, okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot in Hanoi. You wouldn't need to walk that far, I wouldn't have thought, until you could maybe find a hotel or something. Maybe walk into a hotel and speak to the reception, see if you've got a number you can call as opposed to just message on a platform.
These are all good ideas. Do you know what it speaks to? I'd only been traveling for 1 month total. I started traveling in 2015.
Yeah.
And what I did in this scenario worked out great,
right?
But now I would do something completely different. Now I'd always make sure I had some way of contacting or data or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And I would just go, okay, I've messed this up. I'm going to go to a hostel or something.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's the right way to do what you did.
But also the more boring way.
Because I was so inexperienced, I was just like, oh, God, if I don't get into this apartment somehow, there's no way I'll ever do this workaway. I can't possibly fathom it. What I ended up doing, mate, was going around the side of the building.
Yeah.
There was a fire escape ladder, you know, that you get in New York apartments.
Oh, yeah.
And it was locked up.
Right.
But I climbed over the initial gate onto the fire escape.
Right.
Walked up the fire escape, and on the 5th floor, one of the windows was ajar.
Right. You already knew at this point which floor the apartment was on.
I was actually supposed to be on the 4th floor.
Right.
So I climbed through that open window into the apartment blocks.
Oh, it was like a corridor window. It wasn't into an apartment.
Right, yeah, it was a corridor window, thankfully.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that at the time necessarily.
Yeah.
Went through the apartment blocks, down the stairs to where I was supposed to be.
Right.
Found the apartment and just knocked loudly on the door.
At 11 o'clock at night?
Probably more like midnight at this point.
Right.
And, I mean, thankfully, I heard just some voices behind going, hello? And it just so happened that the other workaway people were awake. They were having a bit of a drink, a boogie. They let me in. They were like, what the hell are you doing here? It was great because from their perspective, they kind of had a vague sense that someone was supposed to be arriving for the workaway that day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I guess he's not coming then. They'd resigned themselves to that. And at midnight, some disheveled 21-year-old kid comes through a window down the stairs and goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm here. Yeah. It was amazing.
I'm not sure I ever would have thought that was the right thing to do. How long was there between you doing that and you sort of arriving? Are we talking like a 15-minute, I've got no options, straight up the ladder? Or are you sitting out there for an hour thinking, I can't climb the fucking ladder. That's not the way this is going to...
I pondered it. I mean, I really sat and took my time and thought, is this the way out? Is this the life that I want to be living in? Do I want to live in this scenario where I've got to basically break into this building? Because you never know as well. They actually told me that was the only night that week that they'd been up and awake.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it was unlikely. It was just by happenstance they happened to be having a bit of a boogie that night.
Well, maybe let's extend this then. What do you do if they didn't answer the door? Do you just continue to bang?
I think I would have slept outside the door.
At least you're inside.
At least you're inside.
At least you're inside.
Yeah. I mean, the moral of the story is do some fucking planning before you're supposed to turn up somewhere. Don't be outside an apartment at midnight with no plan, no phone and no data. Although that is easier now in the modern world.
Yeah, difficult in 2015, mate. I like it. I think that's an important lesson to learn.
We love learning lessons on Tripology Podcast. Tales of a Trip is a brand new section on the podcast where we get backpackers from all over the globe to send in 3 minutes of their greatest travel stories. Something emotional, something beautiful, something daring and dangerous. You can head to tripologypodcast.com/tales of a trip and you can send in your greatest travel story. For the very first edition of Tales of a Trip, it only made sense that we have friend of the show, an absolutely wonderful storyteller, Will Hatton, send in his favourite travel story. So let's hear it now.
Okay, so let me set the scene. It's Bundi in Rajasthan, India. I've just spent the last 2 weeks driving a multicoloured rickshaw named Tinkerbell, which was 35 years old and which I had bought for €300 across the Rajasthani desert. It was an emotional journey. Upon arriving into Bundi, which is a spectacular town, with a sacred lake overlooked by a towering fortress, myself and my brother Alex, my favourite travel companion, we decided the time had come. The time had come for rest and recuperation. And so we each took a tab and a half of LSD and we hiked up to this magical fortress. We spent a happy day exploring, scrambling along the ramparts like warriors of old and gazing out across the blue city below. And then, sitting as for sunset, we noticed to the corner of our eyes monkeys. More than one monkey. Quite a few monkeys. 12 monkeys, 30 monkeys, 50 monkeys, 100 fucking monkeys. Weird patterns all around them because the LSD is hitting in strong. And what's in my hand? A fucking banana. Now, during the day, these monkeys, they head out to the town of Bundi. They pilfer, they scavenge. They're basically a nuisance. But once sun sets, that's when the real fun begins. The locals, they know not to be in the fortress after dark, but we did not. We were not armed with any sticks. Later, we would realise that the friendly local who had been gesticulating at us and saying something about sticks had been warning us not to head up into the fortress without arming ourselves with a stout wooden cane to fend off these feral beasts. The monkeys, they swirled and ducked and dived around us, charging in with their fangs, bright and glistening, and breaking off at the last possible second. We slowly but surely made our way down the battlements to the only way that we know in and out of this magical fortress, and it was a hole in the gate, a monkey-sized hole. And within that monkey was the biggest motherfucking, within that hole even, was the biggest motherfucking monkey you ever did see. It was glowering at us, fangs shiny and wet, and all around us, I shit you not, there were 30 big baboons and 100 or so of the other small little motherfuckers. They kept charging us and breaking off at the last second. Wow. I turned to my brother and I said, Alex, we've got to kill this monkey. We debated. Alex didn't want to kill the monkey. He believes in veganism and not killing monkeys. I understood his point. And in the time that it took us to debate, the monkey, thank God, vacated the hole. And so we dived through and we turned to each other and we laughed and we embraced, for we had survived the monkeys of the Bundi Fortress.
Whoa, thank you, Will, for sending in that story, surviving a monkey attack on Bundi Fortress. I like the image of them going over the ramparts like warriors of old. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I have actually been to Bundy on his recommendation.
Okay.
So I've probably been to the exact fort he's talking about, and taken the exact LSD that he's I'm joking. Difficult to believe a story when it starts with taking a tab of LSD.
Yeah, because you start wondering, is the monkey situation as described, or was it something to do with the psychedelic drugs? I mean, you don't have to be Will to tell a story, but it helps. He's a good storyteller. He weaves a narrative. You can really imagine him regaling the hostel common room with that sort of tale.
I mean, I'd be amazed if that's the first time he's told that story, because it's well drilled. It sounds like he's performing a page of his journal. I absolutely loved it. I think there's, without question, a great storyteller and a great story. Being surrounded by, well, he didn't say rabid, but they seemed aggressive.
Certainly. Baboons are an aggressive type of monk.
Yeah, was that difficult for you to hear? As
a monkey enthusiast?
Yeah, as a monkey, someone who loves monkeys more than most.
Well, I was very disappointed to hear that Will had gone to a monkey haven with a banana in his pocket. I mean, that's one of the worst things you can do, isn't it? Do you remember when me and you, it was in Mumbai, we went to some ancient caves and we were traveling with some other backpackers, and one girl, she had a packet of biscuits in her pocket.
Yeah.
She was constantly being hounded by the macaques. Well, I had to teach her to make eye contact with the macaques to stave them off, because she was just getting pestered all day long.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch the way that she reacted to the monkey, which at one point was sort of airborne, wasn't it? It was like swinging around on her backpack, hanging on for dear life with one arm.
Yeah, she sort of did a 360 no-scope to biscuit combination.
Yeah. It's difficult to have sympathy, I think, when, you're going to be surrounded by monkeys. I was thinking, why is she getting so much attention? Oh, because she's got an open packet of cookies in her bag. But what would your recommendation for Will be? Because, I mean, not the greatest thing to do, walk around with a banana in your pocket.
Well, psychedelic drugs, they're a big part of the backpacking scene. We all know it, but other podcasts don't talk about it. It's like a normal thing to do, isn't it? But I wonder if Will knew, and his brother, did they know that it was going to be such an animalistic experience prior to taking the LSD? Because often you take LSD, something like that, to heighten your connection with the natural world, heighten your understanding of where you are, and like to have a deep spiritual connection. But it sounds to me like if they hadn't taken the LSD, they would already have got quite a wild experience anyway, just naturalistically.
Yeah, I mean, it may sound like I'm speaking from personal experience, and I am, but being on psychedelics and being around animals is not fun, or almost ever, actually. So being confronted with 20, 30, 50 monkeys, I imagine that would have wore thin pretty soon.
Yeah, me and you, of course, are two people who worked on a farm, and some of our early meetings revolved around our curiosity into the psychedelic world. So we do know what it is to be surrounded by animals that can do you physical harm, like a horse that can kick you in the face.
Especially when it's got 5 heads.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think probably the way to go would not to be take psychedelic drugs and then surround yourself by dangerous wild animals, but it makes a hell of a backpacking story.
Yeah, I think having said that, being on the ramparts, sunset, you're in Rajasthan, which is beautiful area, absolutely love it. Like I said, I went there on his recommendation. Had he taken the LSD and just watched the sunset over the fortress and over the lake, amazing experience. Monkeys on this occasion maybe ruined the experience.
He said they were baboons, didn't he?
A couple of baboons in there, yeah.
Baboons are like known for being a particularly aggressive type of monkey. So much so, there's this amazing story about a group of baboons that changed their behavior because they treat each other absolutely awfully in adolescence. And then as a result of that, they become awful, because they're treated so badly.
Right.
There was this amazing case of this baboon colony where a hotel opened up nearby.
Yeah.
So all the most aggressive alpha baboons got tuberculosis because they were the ones that would go to the hotel and eat the trash.
Oh, shit.
So they ended up dying off. And then there were no evil, aggressive alpha baboons to treat the young ones badly. So the baboon colony became this altruistic, beautiful commune where everyone was just treating each other well. It became like almost a subspecies of baboon. It was like, we treat each other nicely because all the adult males are dead.
Wow.
So it's a shame Will didn't come across those baboons because he could have had a cuddle as opposed to like having to run away.
Yeah, you wouldn't have even lured him in with a big banana in your pocket.
There you go. Tales of a Trip. It's a new item on the show and it's one that we're very, very passionate about. Like I said, you can go to our website, tripologypodcast.com/tales of trips. Send your story in. It's got to be 3 minutes, and it can be anything. It can be a wild, daring story like the ones Will's just told, or it can be how you met your first love traveling, what traveling's meant to you. It can be anything, but we want to hear from you. So please send us a message via that recording button, or you've got access to all our socials in the description of this episode. Instagram, email, all that jazz. We just want to hear with you. We want to connect with the audience.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic exercise in building community, and we're always so inspired by speaking to different people. This is a platform for you guys to share your stories with us. We're going to play them out, and we can't wait to hear them. Thanks ever so much, Will, for sending that in.
Yeah, it's a travel community podcast, isn't it? Yeah. And speaking to the community, right now, we're going to go off to our Patreon section where we're going to talk a load of travel nonsense. It's like 15 minutes long, comes out 24 hours early.
Cheap as chips.
Yeah, cheap as chips. Head over to patreon.com/Tripology Podcast, and we'll see you there.
I'll see you there.
Bye.
Cheers, bye-bye.